Hey everyone, if you're here right now listening to this in the dark like I am, just hit that like button and subscribe, because I need to whisper this out before it burns me up inside. I never imagined a simple home massage from my husband would pull me into the most intense, trembling night our marriage has ever known. But here I am, heart racing, telling only you. It was a quiet Friday evening. I pushed open our front door, shoulders burning from another endless day at work, feeling completely unseen and touched in the middle of our safe little life. My body ached in places words can't reach, and my heart, it ached even deeper. The house smelled like dinner leftovers and yesterday's routine. I kicked off my heels and just stood there for a second, breathing in the silence that had started to feel heavier than any argument. I poured myself a glass of wine, the deep red swirling like unspoken thoughts, and sank into the couch. That familiar lavender diffuser hummed softly in the corner, filling the air with its calm, flowery scent. Years of marriage had quietly turned our closeness into something predictable, almost scheduled. Quick kisses goodnight, touches that felt more like habit than hunger. I caught my reflection in the hallway mirror later, eyes tired, and whispered to myself, barely loud enough to hear, "Is this all there is now? Am I selfish for still wanting to feel truly desired? Wanted like I used to?" My body felt so heavy with all those unmet needs. Every muscle pulled tight from weeks of stress, loneliness pressing down harder than the weight on my shoulders. I realized how isolated I'd become right here in our own home, sleeping beside him every night yet somehow miles apart. The wine warmed my throat but did nothing for the cold ache inside. That's when he noticed. He walked in from the kitchen, that familiar look of quiet concerns softening his face. "You look like the whole world sat on you today," he said gently. He suggested a relaxing home massage, something he'd offered before. But his voice carried a different weight this time, like he actually saw how far I'd drifted. I hesitated, the old familiar pull of "we're too tired for this" rising up, but something in me surrendered. I nodded. He dimmed the bedroom lights until only the soft glow from the bedside lamp remained. Put on our old playlist, that slow acoustic song we used to dance to on early date nights, the one that always made my skin tingle with possibility. He told me to lie down on the bed in just my robe, heart already beating a little faster than it should. The door clicked shut behind us, closing out the rest of the world, and suddenly the room felt smaller, warmer, charged with something I couldn't name. I lay face down, cheek pressed into the cool pillow. He warmed the oil between his palms, that faint scent of something earthy and intimate drifting up. When his hands finally settled on my shoulders, the warmth of his touch hit differently tonight. Not the usual quick rub. This was slower, more intentional, like he was really seeing me. All the hidden tension I'd been carrying alone, his fingers pressed in with just the right pressure, working out knots I didn't even know were there. Heat bloomed under his palms, spreading through my tired muscles, and I forgot how to breathe for a second. In that closed space of our bedroom, with the world outside completely forgotten, he became the only thing that existed. This man I'd married, the one who'd somehow started to feel distant lately, his hands moved down my back, steady and sure, and every slow glide sent tiny sparks racing along my skin. The acoustic song played on low, its gentle rhythm sissing with the rise and fall of my chest. I could feel the heat of his body close behind me, not quite touching but near enough that I was painfully aware of every inch between us. I told myself it was just a massage, nothing more, but my mind kept whispering the opposite. Why did his touch feel so electric now after all this time? Why was my pulse quickening like this, like something forbidden was hovering just out of reach? The loneliness from earlier melted into a different kind of ache. Deeper, warmer, pulling me toward him even as guilt flickered at the edges. We'd grown so used to the safe distance. Was it wrong to want more? To let myself crave the way his hands seemed to remember parts of me I'd almost forgotten? His breath breathed lightly near my neck as he leaned in to work a stubborn knot. Warm. Steady, I swallowed hard, fighting the sudden urge to turn toward him. The robe shifted slightly with his movements, the fabric whispering against my skin, and for one breathless moment everything felt suspended. Like the air itself was holding its breath with me, and then, His hands paused, just for a second. Lingering, the song continued, but my heart didn't. His fingers pressed deeper into my back, gliding over the silky texture of the massage oil that smelled faintly of sandalwood and musk, and I couldn't stop the soft sound that escaped my lips. Every glance he stole in the mirror across the room sent sparks through me, accidental brushes against my thighs making my pulse race in a way that felt almost guilty. This is just a massage, I told myself, fighting the growing heat that pooled low in my belly. He's my husband. This is normal, but why does it feel so dangerous tonight? Why does every slow circle of his thumbs make me want to forget the careful distance we'd built these past months? The old guilt flickered. We'd settled into something safe, almost polite, and here I was craving the kind of touch that reminded me we used to burn for each other. The song played on, its slow rhythm assisting with my quickening breath as his hands lingered just a little too long on my lower back. The warmth of his palms seeped through the thin robe, pulling me under like a current I didn't want to fight. The fabric whispering against my skin, and for a heartbeat everything hung there. Suspended between what we'd always done and what my body suddenly remembered it needed, then came the moment everything tilted. He leaned in close, his breath warm against the curve of my neck, and whispered low, "You've been so tense lately. Let me take care of you properly tonight." His hands slid lower, crossing that invisible line from careful to something far more intimate, fingertips tracing the curve of my hip with deliberate, unhurried pressure. I gasped, my mind screaming that this was crossing into territory we'd left behind too long ago. Stop. This is more than we planned. But my body betrayed every careful thought as I arched just enough into his touch, the ache inside me answering before words could. The sandalwood scent wrapped around us heavier now, mixing with the faint salt of skin warming under friction. His mouth followed where his hands led, pressing soft, open kisses along the path his fingers had traced, each one sending tremors I couldn't hide. We gave in right there on the bed, the indulgence feeling like mutual relief after all those quiet evenings of emotional drift. Like we were repaying ourselves for the lost time with every slow, rediscovered caress. The robe slipped open without either of us acknowledging it, and suddenly there was nothing between his heat and mine but the slick glide of oil and intention. After that first wave of surrender, we didn't stop. He pulled me close, texture of his stubble grazing my shoulder as we moved together with a hunger I hadn't felt in years. A raw, wordless craving that made the air feel thicker. Every shift, every press carried the weight of rediscovery, my internal voice whispering frantic justifications even as my hands gripped his arms tighter. We're married. This is allowed. It's just us trying to find what we almost lost. The acoustic song looped faintly in the background, now carrying a different pulse, no longer quiet nostalgia but something that matched the rhythm building between us. Intensity gathered with each shared breath. Slower at first, savoring the way our bodies remembered each other, then faster, more desperate, like we were both afraid the spark might slip away again if we didn't hold on tight enough. Sweat beaded along my spine where his palm pressed, the scent of sandalwood and us filling the dim room until it was all I could taste on every inhale. I felt the tremble in his shoulders mirroring my own, that shared vulnerability making the connection feel almost fragile, like one wrong move could shatter the fragile bridge we'd just rebuilt. His forehead rested against mine for a suspended second, eyes dark with something deeper than simple want, and in that pause I wondered if he felt the same storm inside, the fear that this heat might change the safe shape of our marriage, mixed with the terrifying relief that we still could burn like this. The song kept playing, but neither of us was listening anymore. My fingers dug into his back as another rush of closeness pulled us under, leaving me breathless and aching for whatever came next, terrified and alive in a way I hadn't been in far too long. His hands gripped my waist with a sudden possessiveness that sent a shiver racing through me, pulling me flush against him as hours melted away in the dim glow of our bedroom. I need this, we need this, the thought looped desperately in my mind, shoving aside the flicker of guilt over how our daily routines had nearly smothered every spark we once shared. The massage oil made every slide of skin feel impossibly smooth, amplifying the heat building between us until I lost myself completely, whispering his name in broken fragments I hadn't uttered in years. It felt like reclaiming stolen time, Payback for all the lonely evenings and quiet frustrations, our private way of saving what we'd let drift afar. And yet part of me trembled at how easily the boundary dissolved, his fingers digging in just enough to claim without asking, the warmth of his body pressing promises I wasn't sure we were ready to keep. We explored each other like rediscovering a forgotten language, every touch carrying the weight of years unspoken. The scent of sandalwood grew heavier, blending with the faint musk of shared effort until the air itself felt alive, thick enough to taste. When his palm flattened against the small of my back, drawing me impossibly closer, our rhythms sissening in a way that made my chest tighten with equal parts fear and relief. This is too much. Too good, my mind raced even as my body surrendered further, waves of overwhelming closeness crashing through me again and again, leaving me trembling in his arms. I told myself it was emotional payback, a necessary indulgence to bridge the distance that had crept in so silently, but the intensity kept climbing, each shared gasp pulling us deeper into territory we'd long abandoned. By the time the peak consumed us both, the room pulsed with the mingled warmth of sandalwood, sweat, and something undeniably us. My thoughts fractured in the midst of it all. This changes everything, doesn't it? What if we can't go back to the safe version of us? Yet the rationalizations flowed easier than the oil on our skin, convincing me this fire was exactly what we'd been starving for. We gave ourselves over completely. Again and again, each wave longer and more consuming than the last, turning raw vulnerability into a passion that felt almost sacred, bonding us in ways our everyday marriage had never touched. His breath came ragged against my ear, low confessions slipping out between us like secrets too heavy to hold alone. How much he'd missed this version of me, how the quiet take had been eating at him too. I clung tighter, my own whispers tumbling free. Don't stop. I need you like this. The words tasting like both surrender and salvation. Lying there afterward, our bodies still tangled in the cooling sheets with the acoustic song finally fading into silence, I stared at the ceiling, heart still hammering. The choice hung heavy in the quiet slip back into that comfortable, distant routine that had been slowly suffocating the life out of us. Or keep chasing this dangerous flame, even if it meant risking the steady marriage we'd spent years building? This home massage hadn't just eased the knots in my muscles. It had cracked open something deeper, exposing needs I hadn't admitted even to myself, forcing me to reevaluate everything I thought our life together had become. The guilt lingered like a shadow at the edge of the bed, whispering warnings about what this intensity might unravel, but so did the undeniable pull of closeness we just rediscovered, warm and insistent against my skin. His arm draped heavier across me now, fingers lazily tracing idle patterns along my arm, and in that suspended hush I felt the question burning unspoken between us. How much further could we let this pull us before the safe shape of our days fractured for good? My pulse quickened again at the thought, terrified of the answer yet already craving whatever came next in the dark. Am I wrong for wanting more of this in my marriage? Or would you have given in to when the touch felt that electric? What would you do if a simple massage from your partner suddenly unlocked years of hidden desire? Stay in the safe lane or dive deeper? I keep asking myself that in the quiet hours now, heart still racing at the memory of how close we came to losing control completely. His breath against my skin, that slow deliberate pressure turning into something neither of us could name. It cracked open doors I thought we'd sealed shut forever. Tell me honestly, if your husband or wife looked at you like that, voice low and trembling with need you hadn't heard in ages, would you pull back or let the gravity pull you under? I almost stopped myself a dozen times that night, whispering in my head that this was dangerous, that marriages like ours survive on routine, not on this kind of fire. Yet every time his fingers lingered just a heartbeat longer, I felt myself falling further. The ache wasn't just physical anymore. It was years of missed glances and half-finished conversations rushing back all at once. Would you have given in? I think I already know the answer for most of you because I see it in the way my own hands still shake when I remember. If you want the even more intense details of how the night unfolded. The exact words he whispered when everything hung in the balance, the ways our bodies found each other again that left me shaking long after, and what happened the morning after when sunlight hit the sheets and reality crept back in. Subscribe right now and turn on notifications. I'll share the full raw continuation in my next video because this confession is far from over. That lavender diffuser is still going in our bedroom now, something that left us both breathless and changed in ways we can't quite measure yet. Thanks for listening to my real story. I needed to tell someone. The weight of it has been sitting on my chest for days, and letting it out here with you feels like the only way I can breathe again. Like and comment below. Tell me if you've ever felt that same pull in your own relationship, that terrifying sweetness when comfort suddenly ignites into hunger. Because the truth is, I'm still lying awake wondering if we crossed a line we can never uncross, or if this was the beginning of finding each other all over again. The house is quiet now, but my mind it isn't. Every creak of the floorboards makes me think of his footsteps approaching. Every shadow on the wall feels like the shape of his hand reaching. Part of me wants to keep chasing that heat, to let it burn away the safe distance we've grown used to. But another part is scared, whispering that some fires warm you and others consume everything you've built. We're still here, still married, still sharing the same bed, yet nothing feels quite the same. The air between us carries this new electricity now, fragile and humming with possibility. I catch him watching me sometimes across the kitchen table, and my pulse does that familiar quickening again. Terrified of what it means, already craving whatever might come next when the lights go down. Will we talk about it openly or let it simmer unspoken? Will this bring us closer or slowly pull us apart in ways we won't see until it's too late? I don't have the answers yet. Only this lingering ache that feels both like hope and like warning. Maybe that's what marriage really is sometimes. Not the neat happily ever after, but this constant tightrope walk between safety and surrender. And I can't stop thinking about how good it felt to almost fall.